And welcome to Create Your Best Life with Rex. It's my show. I'm your host, Rex Sikes. My co host, Danny Walsh, is not with us today, but we've got a great show and exciting guest. We're going to talk about authentic connections and relationships, and I'm going to tell you all about him in just a moment. Notice, however, too, that there's a couple of changes. One is this. We have a new website, but it's not on the graphics advertising the show. It still says Rex Sikes TV, but it is now rexsikestv.com. rexsikestv.com. You see all the shows there. That's the webpage for that. My other website and everything else will ultimately be added. I mean, we're in the middle of changing a bunch of stuff around, but you can see rexsikestv.com. And by the way, all of the replays, and this is important, you can share this show and you can share the replay after the show at Create Your Best Life with Rex, the YouTube channel. And you just go there and hit live videos, and it'll have all of the recent shows for this, where the lives are, along with other live videos that I do. But you can find the show, share it to your friends, your family, coworkers, colleagues, whatever. But you do it from Create Your Best Life with Rex at YouTube, or you share rexsikes.tv or rexsikestv.com. All right. So with that, let me introduce my guest. I'm excited about Scott. He's a friend, he's a colleague. He's Scott Schilling, and he's known as the Authentic Connector. He's an international speaker, a trainer, a media host, executive coach, and a consultant. And he brings a unique combination of over 35 years of life experience in coaching, sales, marketing, and training to corporations, business owners, entrepreneurs, and individuals. He's presented over 3,000 live events, sharing the stage with General Colin Powell, Suze Orman, Jack Canfield, Les Brown, Stephen Forbes, Hopkins, and the list goes on. As an internationally accomplished and entertaining presenter, Scott's spoken to hundreds of thousands of attendees across a range of industries, and he brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise to the airwaves, to stages, live stages, boardrooms, podiums, and print media. Scott's a highly sought-after executive coach and business expert, and because of the results he produces, his training, for example, propelled one client's business to grow from about $8 million annually. I mean, no small thing, right? To almost $100 million in just under 6 years. So Scott's life purpose is to inspire and empower others to serve humanity through living through their life's purpose in the spirit of love and joy. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring Scott up. And here he is, Mr. Scott Schilling. By the way, hey, Scott, I'm sorry, before you anything there, we do have a chat room, and wherever you're watching live, you may have the opportunity, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or wherever, to ask questions of Scott or leave comments. So be sure that you do that wherever you are. And when I see them, because they don't all show up, when I see them, I'll try and bring them up so that we can highlight those so that you can answer the questions or respond to the comments. Scott, how are you today?
I'm doing great. It's always fabulous being with you, Rex.
And it's fabulous being with you. And sometimes we get to be together a whole lot more often than other times. And so this is a treat. We haven't been doing a weekly get together like we've been known to do with others for the summer months. So this is really delightful to be with you.
Yeah, I was actually asking. I was missing it. I said, I think we need to reconnoiter again. We need to get back going again.
Absolutely. So Scott, you're known as the Authentic Connector. Let's just jump right in this topic because it's a good topic, and I want to make best use of our time for the audience here. And that is, according to you, what say you in terms of creating authentic connections? How do you do that? How does somebody who's just watching for the first time and wants to be more effective in their life or connect and have better relationships with people, what are some of the steps or principles that they can start to apply?
Well, I think it starts with it being a heart set, not necessarily a mindset. So many things are intellectual or tactical, right? They're up in your head that you're trying to do things. Being an authentic connector and making authentic connections is really strategic. It's relational. It's heartfelt. You got to have a desire. The word authentic is there for a reason. I can't be you. You can't be me. We have to be ourselves. And far too many people, unfortunately, we both know, we know the good ones and we know the less than good ones, right? We're ones who um, purport to be in it for the other person, but unfortunately are not. Well, I come out of the Ziegler camp, and the Ziegler camp basically, I read "See You at the Top" many, many, many years ago, and there was a particular quote in that book that forever set my path in motion, and that is, you can have everything in life you want when you help enough other people get what they want. So it's a positioning statement. You're in a position of servant leadership. Well, when you do that, you tend to make authentic relationships. And one of the things that I share daily, multiple times daily, is the need for relationships are before you need the relationships. People do business with those they know, like, and trust. People date those they know, like, and trust. People marry those they know, like, and trust. People divorce those they no longer trust. It's about trust. Well, the way to earn trust is to get people to know you. And once they know you, hopefully they learn to like you. And then, and only then, can they start to earn trust. Well, if trust isn't, you have to have trust to do business. That means you have to have know and like ahead of that period of time, which means, so the way I say it is, you need to create relationships far ahead of the need for that relationship. In other words, you create relationships because you want relationships. Then the possibility of what could come of that relationship happens somewhere in the future. And authenticity is being true to who you are, true to what you stand for. For me, it's about being integrous, and I would think for everybody else as well.
Would hope.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, because I like what you just said there. The purpose of having a relationship is to have a relationship, is to be able to relate with ease with another person, get to know them, get comfortable with them. Because there's so many people who they've taken some program or course, or they think, I'm going to be a salesperson, and their goal is to close people or to sell people or to convince or persuade people, or to manipulate, and whatever. Instead of, I'm going to create a relationship. I'm going to be relating with a person with the purpose of simply getting to know them and to like them, and them to know and like me. And through that process, trust can begin to flourish if you're trustworthy and if there's integrity. But I mean, I think purpose, what you said about heart set, is truly important, because how you go into it might determine how you come out of it, or what you're able to create or not create together, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The reality is that you've got to learn to like people. People do business with people. And so you've got to like people. It's just the way it starts. And relationships are the opportunity to be of service to one another. One of the concepts that I teach is become an asset to everyone you meet. ASSET is a 5-letter acronym for a spontaneous servant every time. Become a spontaneous servant every time. The rest kind of takes care of itself. The chances as a professional speaker, trainer, coach, consultant, my titles, right? The chances of you needing that the minute we meet, maybe 5%. But the chances of you needing to know something I know or someone I know is probably 95%. So if you become an asset, you become that spontaneous servant every time, what will happen is you create a relationship. And as a sales professional, I don't ever want to sell you anything, but I do always want you to buy a lot from me. Therefore, it becomes my responsibility to create an environment where you want to buy what I have. So it's my responsibility to create the relationship. It's my responsibility to create the desire within you to want what I represent. It's not to force you or manipulate you. In fact, my heart-centered selling definition of sales is education through communication without manipulation. And what that actually does is reframes the presenter as a teacher. It is our invitation to teach other people about the features, advantages, and benefits of our offerings.
Well, I also, and again, I appreciate that. And one of the phrases or memory pegs or memes that we have encountered in the recent in many decades really is people like to buy but they don't like to be sold. And so what you said is how do I help you buy what I offer? And to do that, you can educate them in terms of the features and the benefits and how it's going to solve their problem and add value to their life, because your purpose is to add value to their life.
Correct. As an example, when people say, Scott, what is it that you do? I've got numerous answers to that. One is I help people. And then they say, how do I do that? Well, I specialize in identifying problems and providing solutions. It's just that simple. It's a matter of, I have multiple solutions to multiple problems, but it's not nowhere in there does it say I shoehorn my solution into your manufactured problem. That's not the way it works, right? It is, I ask you questions. You're the one who knows what your challenges are, what your problems are. So it is my responsibility in developing that relationship authentically to find out what's bothering you. What is your pain? What is your challenge, your problem? And then potentially offer a solution. Now, there are times where I am directly tied to that solution, but there are probably far more times that I'm not tied to that solution personally. That's why the authentic connector is basically, for me, what I do is I listen to one person and I get to know them and what their challenges might be. And I listen to somebody else who has some amazing solutions, and I put them together when and where appropriate to identify a problem, provide a solution. Sometimes the solution is even me.
Well, I do love that, because it is true that, if you or I or someone can't solve the problem, if you can refer the person to someone who can, you're providing value. I just connected a couple people and I got this beautiful email going, Rex, you're my hero, because very person I needed, you connected me with. So sometimes, the sale, if you want to call it that, is made with the referral. And again, that's how you build trust or rapport or likability, because people
Right.
understand it's not just about you, it's about their needs and how you can help their needs. So I love this. This is great. Thank you.
Well, yeah, and well, thank you. The opportunity is to provide a solution that is appropriate for the situation. And so again, in the seminar business, back in the day when we were out on the road, doing 8 to 10 presentations a week, there were organizations, and I used to call them caveman style selling. Bang them in the head, drag them back to the table. They were going to come back no matter what. Well, I refused to be part of anything like that. So what we did is we actually flipped the script. We changed how it was all done. We were treating people with respect, honor, and dignity. Novel concept. And because we were back in that city typically every 90 days, we actually allowed people, we did everything we could to get them to facilitate the purchase that time, that week. But if we weren't able to accomplish that, we did a thing called release with dignity. And we basically had a very strategic, heartfelt program that said, we understand that you're not able to take this action this time. We are typically back here about every 90 days. Would it be okay if we contact you multiple times throughout that 90 days to see how you're coming along with the free things that we offer you, and then invite you back when we're back. And it was like, oh, that'll never work in this industry. Well, it worked to the tune of building a company from 8 million to 100 million in less than 6 years. The fact is, we actually purposefully respected, honored, and dignified the situation. And what we found is when we came back to that city, we had some half-sold people come back for the second time. In other words, they had already seen it once, but now they were coming back and offering it up. You know, the thing that people don't realize, know, like, and trust has to be there. You have to come from an others orientation. But the third thing that people don't realize is that people take action when they're ready, not when you're ready. And so if you make that foundational, that means by definition, you have to build trust ahead of when they're ready. And if you go to present something and they're not ready right then, but they trust you, they're not buying from you or anybody else because they're not ready. If they don't trust you and they're ready, they're buying, but not from you because they don't trust you. So you have to develop relationships ahead of the need when they're ready for that relationship. So this is how it all fits together. And that's why it creates hockey stick growth. And hockey stick growth is a blade that goes sideways for a period of time. That's the foundation and the efforts that you're putting in. And then the stick shoots up and continues to go up, higher margins, less effort, less time, because you've set the foundation in place. We live in such a me, now society that sometimes people don't like that approach. Well, you'll make more money for a longer period at higher margins if you adopt it. It's just the way it works.
So, and that's a great trade-off, or not even a trade-off. That's a great perk to behaving and conducting your business and yourself in a particular fashion. So what can someone do, say, who's just starting out right now? I mean, you tell them, it's always amazing. You say to somebody, pay attention to the other person. They go, how? What am I supposed to do? And you could say, well, you could begin by looking at them. You could listen to them without trying to speak. I mean, in other words, there are some steps that we could do. So for the person starting out, or for the person who's really doing, they're already advanced, but they want to be able to enhance what they do. They want to go to the next level. They want to change up and be more effective. What is one or two things that they might start with that they could practice that comes from your book or from your programs that you could share with us right now so that
Sure.
They can understand? Because some people go, yeah, got it, but they don't get it because they.
Well, I think one of the major things you could do is explore the possibility of entertaining childlike curiosity. Is just be curious. Hey, Rex, man, you've been doing this for a long time. I'm honored that you would speak with me. Why have you been doing it? What, and simply ask questions, right? One of the formulaic questions that I share in the book and elsewhere is, if you could improve one thing in your ... what would it be? If you could improve one thing in your finances, what would it be? If you could improve one thing in your time with your family, what would it be? If you could improve one thing in your relationship with your wife, what would it be? So the point is that if I ask that question, there will always be an answer to it, 100% of the time. If I'm just goofing off, having fun, sometimes I'll just say, hey, Rex, what's new and exciting? Because what it does is it starts, what's new and exciting? What's new and exciting? And it gets you talking about something that's exciting in your life. Well, if you're talking about what's exciting in your life and I bring it up, by default, you'll kind of like me. a little bit more. You'll get to know me a little bit more, and you'll like me a little bit more because you're getting to talk about your favorite thing, you, and something you like, and I'm the one who facilitated that. And so you go, well, I really appreciate him doing that. That was kind of nice. So again, I think this comes down to, how many Starbucks have you ever been into where there's a line waiting for the cashier to take your order, and everybody's standing there like a bump on a log, or they're looking down at their screen. And there's a person within a foot of you that you could say, hey, how you doing? Right? And there's all sorts of different things you can do from there. But hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm just waiting for my coffee. Really? What do you get? Well, I get a caramel frappuccino. Really? Why is that your favorite? Well, because I think it tastes good. I really don't like the coffee. I don't want it to taste like coffee. I just want it to, right? The point is, you've now done something unique. You've started a conversation, right? And it's only through conversation that things grow.
What's amazing is that so many people say, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say to another person. I'm afraid to talk to them. I'm going to get, how about hello? Because like what you just demonstrated is, what kind of coffee are you ordering? It's very simple to be interested in another person and ask them you don't have to ask earth-shattering questions. You just say, hi, how are you? What's good and new? What do you like today? What are you having? It's very simple. I had a guy at a recent event say he was afraid to talk to people, in groups, and I had just gotten off the stage, and he was like, after a couple of minutes, I said, well, you're talking to me. And he said, well, yeah, but I'm not. I said, yeah, but you had no problem speaking to me. And he goes, well, yeah, because I said, well, why don't you just go out on the platform and talk to one person at a time, like you're speaking to me? And he went, it was like you could see the lights go on, like, because you think of it as a whole, 2 people or 20 people or 2,000 people, and it's overwhelming. But if you think I'm just speaking to one person at a time, it takes all the pressure off it. And he was,
well, that's really what the new book is all about, because spoiler alert, there are divides in our country. There are divides in our generations. There are divides in the world, and there are reasons for them. I get that. But the fact is, when we're polar opposites and not talking to each other every day, whether it's everyday problems or major issues, cannot get solved without communicating to each other. It just doesn't happen. And so if we don't like, I'm not even going to put the proverbial we in this. If I don't like the way that we're divided as a country, a world, of generation and everything else, then it is up to me to do something about it. So I wrote a dang book about it, of how to get people talking again, because we are social beings. I'll go back to the pandemic. When the pandemic hit and they announced social distancing 6 feet apart, the minute that came out, I went online and I said, I absolutely refuse to social distance. I will physical distance. I will move 6 feet away from somebody if, in fact, that is what the experts say should happen. But I refuse to social distance, because we are social beings.
right.
And so I actually upped my talking to people. I might not have been able to do it face to face, but I did it through video conference or through the phone or whatever. Novel concept. I called a friend this morning, and it's one of the things I share, one of the concepts, or one of the executable, implementable tricks of the trade. I called a friend today hoping he wouldn't answer. Why? Because the message I was going to leave him was, hey, Tom, this is Scott Schilling, the president of your fan club. I just want you to know that you are flipping awesome, and I know you are touching lives today. God bless. Look forward to talking to you soon. Hang up. And he screwed it all up by answering. And so we had an amazing conversation. And first thing he said, he goes, "Hey, I hear you're on Rex's show this afternoon." He goes, "I love Rex." I said, "Well, I love Rex too." And he goes, "He's a really good guy." I said, "Yes, he is. That's why we're friends." And he said, "Well, will you do me a favor?" I said, "What's that?" He said, "Will you give me the link so I can send it out to people, to my sphere of influence, so that they can watch you guys on the show this afternoon?" I said, "I don't have to send it to you. It's rexsikestv.com. Just have everybody come to rexsikestv.com at 3:00 Central Time. Rex and I are going to be having some fun." He said, "Man, that is so cool." The point is, I actually called him before I thought he would answer, because I didn't want him to answer. But he answered. And so what was the net result? We have more people viewing this today because I made a call to work to try to cheer somebody up or to leave them in a better state to start the day. That's anybody can do that anytime. It's not that hard.
No, but that's a great point. Anybody can do that at any time. I mean, that is, I think, what people need to really understand. I've always said that, it used to be, if you went out to dinner by yourself, you'd read a book or you had a conversation with somebody. But if you didn't want to talk to anybody, you'd bury yourself in a book. Now people bury themselves in their phone, even when they're sitting with another person at the same table, so often. And so, boredom is one of those things where people go, "I'm bored, I don't know what to do." Well, just go interact with someone. Go to an airport, go to a bus station, go to a mall, sit and watch people, observe people, and notice how they walk through the mall. Some people walk through the mall, like they've got the world's weight on their shoulders. Other people walk through the mall like, "This is a breeze. This is wonderful. I'm so glad to be here." I mean, you can learn so much if you just get curious, as you say, and you're willing to look, or you're willing to initiate something. So that's really awesome, guys. Let me just do this and tell you we're about at the halfway point. And so if you're watching the show live or in replay, feel free to like, comment, ask questions, because even after the show, even in replay, you can ask questions in the chat rooms, wherever you're watching, or on YouTube or wherever it is. And share the show, share it out and let other people benefit from my guest, Scott, and what he's sharing today by pushing it out there. You can reach people that I could never reach or that Scott could never reach. And so if we're all in it together and we make a commitment to just at least share something with one other person, and maybe that person will do the same, we could reach in no time a whole lot of people. So go ahead and share it and know that it's not lost on us. We appreciate you. We're so glad that you're here, and we enjoy you both as a guest and as friends. So thank you for being here, and thank you for enjoying the show and for listening to Scott and I. Scott, I wanted to come back with this, and that is simply, you had mentioned, that we're divided in some ways, in this country, and a lot of people have difficulty getting along because they have opposite points of view, whatever those may be, and it's no secret. One of the things that I've done, or what I encourage you to do, and I'd like your input, and I'd like you to ask what you do, is when somebody says, "I believe this," or "This is the way the world is," or "I want this," whatever it is, I don't get, X, Y, Z afterwards. Instead of going, "No, that's not true," or "That's inaccurate," or "I disagree," or "That's stupid," which is what a lot of people do, to say, "Oh, that's interesting. Why do you think that? Why do you feel that way? Why is that important to you? How did you come to believe that?" Not to correct them, but to actually get information. Because sometimes what you discover is the things that led them to their conclusions might be the very thing that you or I need to come to a different conclusion than the one we've made. And if we're not willing to entertain that, then we're just as stuck, even though we might think we're correct, just as stuck as the person we think is stuck. So that's one possibility. But the other possibility is you actually get to understand the other person from where they're coming from, without judging them or with harming them. And think about that, especially if this is somebody you want to buy from you. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Well, Rex, you said multiple things that popped up as far as answers. So I'll go with the shortest one first.
Sure.
My business card is right here. and it says professional speaker, trainer, and coach and consultant. It does not say judge and jury. So just as a that ain't my job. My job is to understand the best way I possibly can. One of the ways that I developed a similar, because again, if I want to identify problems and provide solutions, which is what I do, then I have to understand other people and why they're thinking what they're thinking. And so what I did is I developed the thought process. If there is something that may or may not seem as logical to me as I would like it to be, I've gone to the point of asking myself the question, is it possible? Is it possible what they're saying has merit? There's foundation behind it. There's this, there's that. And I don't think anything is as black or as white as many people turn it to be. I think there's a lot of different components to virtually everything these days. The other thing is my true heart, my platform is to return respect, honor, and dignity to the planet. Respect is how I treat you. So you say whatever you say, and respect is how I treat you. I do not have to agree with you. I do not have to like you, but I should respect you. And you know how they all say, don't should all over everybody. Well, this is one that I'm very strong on this one. We should respect each other. We're fellow travelers on this globe, you know, and living together. We should do the things we can to get along. Honor is how I lift you up. If I respect you, I lift you up for that's interesting. I had never heard that before, or I hadn't, interesting, right? So, and when we do both those things well, then we add dignity to the situation. Right now, we're very undignified as a civilization, seemingly. We're fighting each other over the dumbest stuff and not willing to even explore the possibility of other things. And things don't work. At one time, you know, we were maybe like this, right? We were still apart, but we were close enough that we could have some conversations and make some ground. When you're diametrically opposed, when you're 180 degrees from each other, and it's like, no, where do you go from there? And so the reality is, it's like, why is that no such an absolute no? And is it possible that there's any wiggle room? I think it's almost like there's this, I've got to win mentality. And the reality is you don't always have to win. Everybody has to win at some point in time. Right. And it's how, and so like, it's the book. I'll give you an example from the book. And there was a whole study done on this at the University of Texas, Dallas. Anyway, it came out 5 or 6 years ago. But my generation, the boomer generation, was the last generation to be taught via rote memory. 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B. Take it, memorize it, put it up here, hold it in your noggin. Oh my God, it's all right here, right? With the advent of the internet, the American school system started teaching no longer learning and holding knowledge. They started teaching where to find knowledge. Okay. So it was now find somewhere knowledge. Well, these things became the guardian of knowledge, right? The great bastion of knowledge. Well, the challenge, there are multiple challenges to this. Not all the knowledge in here is true. Just spoiler alert. Number one. Number two is if the battery runs out, you're lacking knowledge. And if you don't have it with you, you're lacking knowledge. So there's a gap. Okay, this is identifying a potential problem, right? It's not judgmental. It's just identifying a problem. And so one of the recommendations I make in the book is if the younger generations have been trained to source knowledge in an external hard drive, cool. Okay, that's the way they've been trained. It's not their fault that they're not holding every piece of information that we older boomers and silent generation know. They weren't taught to do that. We were. Okay. Well, boomers get pissy because, well, why don't you know what I know? Well, because they weren't taught to know what we know. So instead of being pissy about it, it's just recognize it. It's just different, right? And younger generations recognize that we hold information differently. Okay, so here's the point. If the younger generations have been taught to go resource an external hard drive, my name is no longer Scott. My name is external hard drive. Look at me as that resource because we were taught to hold the knowledge. Now, boomers, we've been doing this for a while. We might be a little long in the tooth. We might be a little tired. We might have titanium parts. You never know. What about the youth having the energy, the drive, the enthusiasm? Well, what if we connect with that? They connect with this. All of a sudden, you've got an amazing combination. And what it does is it puts the generations back together and also puts people back together. We start having conversations again. And so that's really my aim for the book, is to do what I can do to seriously put people back together again. And part of that is you got to start by making the connection.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. And one of the things that I guess I'd like to discuss is, most of us, in terms of people, there's only one species of human on the planet that we're aware of. And for the most part, we all speak if we can speak, or we all move if we can move, if we've got, if our body and everything's intact. We're born, we grow up in families or by caregivers. We live within societies, whether they're tribal or state societies, whatever. But we share so much more in common than we share or that we have in terms of difference.
Correct.
And instead of celebrating all the things about us that are alike and similar and are part of the human experience, people get caught up on the one or two things that they disagree with or don't like, or, whether it's skin color or religion or politics or, whatever. And they let that interfere with all the other stuff that could unite them or bring them together. And you see this in communities. I mean, you see this in corporations, in businesses, in clubs, and in family.
Yeah, it's like somebody is identified. I'll throw out a word that some people are going to go, what the hell's that word? People create fiefdoms, right? And it's a word from the past, everyone. But they create these little things that, my way or the highway and all that. And it's not necessarily my way or the highway. Some things are, some things need to be, that's called laws. I mean, that's why we have laws as an example. But the reality is that everybody is valuable. Everybody is valuable. Doesn't matter who you are, what your title is, what your position is, whatever. And it's only the ones who think they're more valuable and work to create this ruling class that becomes problematic. Is the reality is we're all human beings. The one thing Ben Carson, I love what he said a number of years ago. He said, as a brain surgeon, I cut open somebody's head to operate on their brain, and I can't tell you whether they're male, female, white, black, green, purple, this, that. The brain is the brain, and people are ultimately the people. Now, do the way that they grew up, the environments that they were surrounded by, do all those things take effect. There's not a doubt about that fact. That's been proven over and over again. But they also don't have to remain that way should you choose to take another course. And one of the things, and Rex, that's why I'm honored to have you as a friend. You're so flippin' smart. You've associated with so many great people. I love the fact that I have the opportunity to associate with you and other great people, because it's when we do that all of a sudden we get different points of views and we get different things. It's when we stay in our little cubbies, right? We get like this and we don't recognize the wonders that are truly available to us.
I want to share something. I mean, thank you for saying that, and I appreciate it. I hope I can live up to that too. And I say right back at you, sir. But I grew up studying Napoleon Hill and all these different things, as a kid, and applied it to my life in so many different ways. But I also grew up as an actor, and as an actor in Screen Actors Guild and in Hollywood, I would go to these different acting classes, and some were very nice and friendly and kind of fluffy kind of acting classes. Others were very brutal, like confrontive, argumentative therapy classes. And that's serious. And I would go tear me a new one. Go ahead and tear me a new one. And I would hate that when they were doing it, but I had asked for it, and I would just break me down, just tear me apart, just rip me up so that I can put myself back together. And I don't say that for any other reason other than to say that what I discovered in that was that, one, I was never permanently injured or abused or anything, no matter how hard they tried to permanently abuse me or injure me. So I mean, it's kind of up to us. But I say it because many people don't want to be challenged. If you or I have an opinion or they have an opinion and you say, well, I don't agree with that. It's like, no. They don't want to get on the other side of the fence. They don't want to cut out of whatever mind space or heart space or whatever they're in to be able to explore what might be possible because they're too busy fighting being challenged. It's like these people always tell me, I hate energy vampires because they're draining me. And I go, well, yeah, if you let them. But I mean, if in other words, if you always had to be around them, are you always going to maintain the attitude that they're draining me? Or are you going to find a way to say, I can be with these people and it doesn't have to be an issue for me. And I think as long as people are judgmental and make other people the issue or the other argument the issue, or the objection for salespeople is the issue that suddenly it's in their face. Well, I can't get over this objection. It's because they're not looking at what do we have in common? How do we bridge these things? What else is possible? What's important to you? They're not listening. They're putting up these walls, and that seems to be what I find egregious, I guess, about social media. Is you might post something really wonderful and one person will find one sentence or a fragment to go, I disagree with that. And then suddenly everything is about that moment of disagreement instead of the 1,000 other sentences which they agreed or they had no opinion about.
Yeah, totally. One of the concepts I teach, and it's in the book again, is learn to be unoffendable. And in the book, I call, with the boomers, I call it boomer bias. We lived at a different time. We got yelled at by our bosses. We got kicked around. We might have even been slapped by a teacher. If you went to Catholic school, you might have been hit by a ruler. But that was our generation, right? Now, it doesn't happen that way today, which is many of those things. That's probably good that it doesn't, right? But you've got boomers that go, I've got my butt kicked as I achieved the success I achieved. And the fact that you're not willing to get your butt kicked, you're just a wuss, younger generation. And they're not just a wuss. They're smarter. They've got technology. They've got drive. I love talking to the younger generations. People are like, what? And I'm like, I love talking to them because you sit there and say, help me understand. Good question, right? Help me understand why you feel this way about corporate jobs. And again, fill in the blank. Help me understand why you feel this way about whatever, right? And one of them said to me, what, I'm supposed to do what my dad's done? He's on his 5th marriage. He drinks too much. He's overweight. He's already had a heart attack. And I'm supposed to strive for that? And I said, no, good point. And again, the point I make in the book is the younger generations have got energy, they've got drive, they've got technology, they've got know-how. And what they've got is a desire to get further, faster, serve more people, give back to humanity more at an earlier age. I do not find any of that to be objectionable. And I think the bottom line is, as older generations, we need to get over the fact that it took whatever it took for us to get to where we are. And just because they're not doing it the same way doesn't make it wrong. It just makes it what it is. And the younger generations should look at us and say, damn, I so wish you would have had technology so that you didn't have to get your butt kicked, and have a little compassion. And I think the older generations would say, oh, yeah, you're right. I mean, when I talk about this concept to boomers and the silent generation, the generation older than me, the response I get is, I'm going to call my grandchildren and start a business with them because I want to become their external hard drive. Oh. I want them to be my energy. And what for the older generations, it's making them vital. I've got a purpose. This isn't just a rock full of junk. There's something in here of value, right? So that's why I'm so passionate about this book and about this entire project, because for the older generations, there's vitality again. For the younger generations, there's that granting of knowledge, wisdom, and expertise and experience without the pain of the lessons. What a great combination.
And the name of the book is?
Endless Connections, Creating Authentic Relationships That Matter.
Wonderful. Beautiful. Because we hadn't said it until now, have we?
No, we haven't said it until now. Thank you, Tom Chenault. You're a rock star.
We have about, maybe 9 minutes left or something like that, where we could talk, maybe 10. What I want to ask you is so people know, how did you get started on this journey of yours of wanting to serve people and of wanting to help people connect?
Well, it really started with Zig's book, See You at the Top. You can have everything in life you want when you help enough other people get what they want. That kind of set my life course in place, right? It got me moving forward. And so as I did that, then I took that through my corporate career and everything. I was a sales trainer. So being in front of a room I was a sales guy and a sales trainer. So that was simple for me. And I made a decision one day that I could utilize my talents and capabilities. These are God-granted talent and capabilities. This isn't me. I'm the guy who is implementing them. And I felt like I could positively impact more lives if I became a professional speaker. And when I became a professional speaker, one of the concepts I teach consistently is high intention, low attachment. High intention of imparting something great for each and every one of you, and a low attachment as to what that is for either you or for me. And so again, we have this opportunity at some point in time, and it'll happen to everybody. I'm convinced of that. At some point in time, you'll go, there's more to life than just achieving or just doing that. And there's nothing wrong with achieving. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. But it's like, what are the lessons that you learned along the way, and how can you help expedite somebody else's success by sharing those lessons? And the more that we can share those lessons, the greater I believe you utilize the talents and capabilities that God's granted you. Now, I say God, that I know my meaning for that. And I'm going to say it this way: whatever your meaning is, I'm cool with it. Again, not judge and jury. My job to be a living example of my beliefs and put that goodness out into the world, just as it is your job to do the same, whatever it is you believe. I believe I've been granted talents and capabilities. In fact, the first professional gig I did, Jack Canfield, Mark Victor Hansen walked in And the first question they asked me after they heard me speak is, are you doing this professionally? And I said, well, not yet. I have a job. And Mark said, that's a horrible answer. And I said, well, but it's my answer. And then Jack thumped me on the sternum. You ever had that where somebody just thumps you? And Jack goes, son, I love telling this story because Jack Canfield called me son. He says, son, God has granted you talents and capabilities most people don't have. And if you don't utilize those talents and capabilities fully, you're robbing humanity. You're cheating humanity. In fact, you're being selfish. And I said, damn, I just met you guys. Which was, and it's what it is. And Mark said, come to my mega speaking event, which is then where I met Cynthia Kersey, which caused me to write my first book, Talking with Giants. It's where I met John Childers, my speaking mentor, that I went on to, do 3,000 live events because of his training. The point is, you never know what one step will allow for. There's no second step if you don't take the first. That I know for a fact.
I'm going to piggyback on that because I changed the meme. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, because it's true. But I changed it and I went, here. You first decide to go on the journey, and then the second step is on the earth. And then from there, every subsequent step. So you first have to start with the mindset. You have to start with the decision. Yeah. You have to start with the intent. I know you know this, but I mean, the point is that, once you have that decision, that intention, everything can fall into place if you just keep taking the steps.
Well, one of the things I learned from Jack Canfield, and I was very, very close. I was part of his first facilitation team for Train the Trainer and all sorts of different things. And I owe a great part of my success to Jack and Mark and John. I mean, the 19 mentors I've written checks to, but Jack taught that you're going to be off course far more than you're ever on course in life. The problem isn't being off course. The problem is learning to be off course less often, less far. Because the only way you can gain any feedback whatsoever is to take an action. And once you take an action, there is feedback. It's either on course or off course. And if it's on course, take the next step in that direction and see if it's still on course. And if it's off course, course correct. And so I had a coaching client one time. She goes, Scott, I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. I said, good, move. She said, no, I'm stuck. I said, good, move. And she goes, I don't think you get it. I'm really stuck. And I said, no, I really get it. Move. And she goes, I don't understand what you're saying. I said, can you feel your right foot? She said, yeah. I said, move it. She goes, okay, I did. I said, great. You're no longer stuck. The only way you can get unstuck is to move. Now, the chances of you taking the right move, probably negligible. You may or may not make the right move, but at least you're moving. The difference, people say, Scott, how were you able to do 3,000 live events? How did you get on the Get Motivated stages? How did you do it? If there's nothing different about me other than maybe I take massive action. I am a whirling dervish. I just keep on making mistakes and trying stuff. And it's like, Edison with the light bulb, they talk about 14,000, you had 14,000 failures. He said, I haven't had a single failure. I just found 14,000 ways that didn't work. Do you stay in action? Do you keep on moving? It's why I'm excited about this new book. It's why Champions of Inspiration, my new podcast, or my podcast, is relaunched. And, we've got amazing guests that, to share things, to serve people. I don't know who will listen. All I can do is produce. It's the same with you. We don't know who's here. All we can do is do our best to provide good, solid information that somebody can latch onto. You've heard me say this quote 2 gazillion times in the shows we've done. Mother Teresa, if you can't feed 100, feed one. you don't know where it can go. And I thought of this when you were saying share this show earlier. Geometric progression. 2 telling 2 telling 2 32 and a half times covers everybody on this planet. The problem is everybody wants 1,000 people there, but nobody's willing to get the first 2. Get the first 2 and have them get 2.
Well, and I love that. And I also love Jerry Seinfeld's thing of don't break the chain. In other words, if you're going to do something, think of it as a chain. If you break the weakest link, if you break the chain, now everything stops. But if you have all the links intact and you keep doing it. So if you're doing something on a daily basis, keep doing it. And I've like you, I've written a blog for like over 15 years, a daily blog, because at a certain point I felt I'm writing for the people who are reading, even if it's only one person.
Right.
But I never wanted to leave a day out for that person. So for 15 years, I've written 365 days a year, this blog. Now, granted, sometimes I sit down and I write 2 weeks in advance. But the point is that, it's the attempt not to break the chain and to just be consistent. And then if somebody shares that, then that goes out.
Well, that today was day 346 in a row of posting my What Now Wisdoms from the last book. And I made a commitment October 1st a year ago that I would do What Now Wisdoms for 1 year straight. And now that I have this new book coming out, October 1st, I'm going to switch them into Endless Connection Wisdoms. And so we'll just modify. Now, will I do them every day? I don't know. I haven't made that decision yet. But I'm going to do 365 straight days of a 1.5 minute lesson that serves some people. You know the cool thing, Rex? I've got people that I went to kindergarten with. This was a long time ago in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin, not far from you. I met them when I was 4 years old, and they look at my What Now Wisdoms on a very consistent basis. How cool is that?
Very cool. It's very, very cool. So we were at that point where we're going to have to say goodbye. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. The book is Endless Connections.
Endless Connections, Creating Authentic Relationships That Matter. You can go to endlessconnectionsbook.com if you'd like to get an advance copy.
Oh, that's fantastic. Endlessconnectionsbook.com for an advanced copy, and scottschilling.com is your website so that they can get a hold of you.
Yep.
And I want to say, my friend, thank you for being here, for sharing your wisdom and your expertise and all the years you've been on the planet doing what you're doing, and because you add value to everyone. You add value to me and to my viewers. So thank you very much.
As you do with me, Rex. It's an honor to be here, and I love doing shows with you and sharing, because every time we have these conversations, I learn from you, my friend.
Thank you. Back at you. Yeah, good. So I'll see you in just a few minutes. I'm going to close out the show, and thank you. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you all for joining us.
Well, there you have it, everybody. Scott Schilling and Rex Sikes without Danny Walsh. I mean, can you believe it? I actually did this show without my co-host, and he'll be back. I'm not sure when. I think next time. But I love him. I miss him, and he always adds great insight, great value, and great questions and great comments to all that we're doing. So I appreciate Danny, and I miss him, and I know you do too. And I thank Scott for being here. And I want to thank all of you for being here. Please do go ahead and share out the show. Note that there's a new website there. It's still being built. I mean, there's things being built. You'll see other shows there. You'll see them at YouTube too, at the Create Your Best Life with Rex YouTube channel as well, right there. So go ahead. There's a replay available right now. Right now, when this show ends, the replay is immediately available using the link that you get from. You can either send them rexsikestv.com, or you can send them, copy the link from YouTube. That's why both are there. All right. So that's very cool. All right. So I'm the author of Life on Your Terms, and I want you to get this book. I really do. And to do that, what I've done, you go get the book from Amazon. It is how you can live your life and create the kind of life that you want, and the kind of business that you want, by making a few simple changes that are pervasive and that will affect everything that you do in a fun, easy, swift way, so that you don't have to struggle, you don't have to work hard, you don't have to sacrifice your family or your friends or your present time in order to feel good about yourself, make more money, feel healthier, happier, and to be more successful, be more peaceful and loving, and all that kind of stuff. So you get the book from Amazon, and I will give you, and here's the incentive, a $497 online video training as a bonus, absolutely free. You go to rexsikes.com/book. It'll give you all the details of how you do this. So for a $20 book, a $30 book, whatever it is, you get $500 worth of bonuses absolutely free. So go do that and enjoy the learning on the video. In fact, you know why? If you go right now to Amazon and order that book, and you go follow the instructions there at rexsikes.com/book, you'll have the video training before you get the book, unless of course you buy the Kindle. So that's my gift to you. Thank you for being there. And as I always say, if you consider something a problem, it's a problem. If you consider something a blessing, it's a blessing. So celebrate everything, right? This is the day the Lord has made. It doesn't say rejoice in some of it or just the good parts of it. Forget all the bad parts. It says rejoice and be glad in it. So celebrate all of it. Celebrate everything. Thank you, my friends, for being here. Until next time, I'm Rex Sikes. Create your best life, and we'll see you then. Bye for now. I can't tell if it stopped. It won't stop.